Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gentle Business Space podcast. I'm Fabi. I'm a systems expert and coach, and I support other female business owners work in a more sustainable way by putting in the right systems and tech and support and working in an aligned way so that we can continue to grow our business without burning out. And I talk a lot about working in a nervous system friendly and sustainable way. And I think what's really important is to then also look at the very practical bits and pieces that help us to do that. And for me, one of those really foundational bits to help you grow sustainably is having a freebie or a lead magnet. So what actually is a freebie? I'm sure you've kind of heard of it and people talking about it. It's usually all over the internet. So it's having some sort of free resource that you can give to people that might help them solve a problem or is a small introduction to what you do. And that it brings people ideally onto your email list. But what I often see happening is that instead of a free resource, if we have one, actually leading to email lists, it ends up sending out links manually one by one, sending them here and there in an email or via your DMs. Or if you have email addresses, they might be scattered all over the place. So you might be sending out a freebie, but maybe you're not capturing the email addresses, or maybe you don't have a freebie yet. And I think it can be having it in place can be a huge part of working more sustainably, because all these manually sending things out can works, and when we start out we all do it, but long term it's usually not that sustainable because it really takes up your time, your energy and your capacity. You spend a lot of time sending stuff out manually, and often we miss out on potential clients who would have loved to stay more connected, to get maybe your newsletter, and ultimately would like to work with you. So usually what happens, or what maybe relates to what you're experiencing, is maybe you've hosted a class or a workshop and afterwards you realize, I don't actually have any way of following up with the people that came. I don't have their email addresses. Or maybe you got their email addresses, but you didn't get the consent to actually email them. I know I used to do that when I used to teach yoga. I had waivers and then people did sign them and we had some form of intake, but I never had that tick box of asking for consent to email them. And then after a while, I tried to follow them up and a lot of people didn't reply anymore because that's just what happens. So we kind of lose out on that opportunity to follow up. Or maybe if you're hosting sort of like free masterclasses or workshops online, maybe you're sending stuff out directly with like Zoom links, but not in a way that people just register so you know everyone who's attended. So you might again miss out on those people that attended, knowing who came and being able to follow up afterwards. Or maybe you shared a free resource, maybe you created something as well, like a video or PDF or some form of resource, but you don't actually know who received it or looked at it. So you might be sending it out again manually, maybe you shared it with a few people or you shared it on social media, but because you're giving the link directly to the resource, you can't actually see who's watched the video, who's opened the resource, and again there's no way of following up because they can just access the resource directly without giving you an email address. So it's really hard to know who's been interested, if it's been successful or not, if people really like it, or if maybe rather should share a different resource. Another scenario might be that you've got a few different lists. I know that one well, having a little bit of back-end chaos. So yes, you've started collecting email addresses for your mailing list, but some are written down in a notebook somewhere, some might be in your inbox, some on a spreadsheet, some in kind of like your booking system, but you never have everything in one place, or a system to lead everything to one place. And again, then we kind of miss out on those people that have shared their email addresses with us, but we haven't got a system in place to bring them all into one place. So all of that can feel really, really messy and scattered. And even though you want to grow, I know that tech part of getting that system set up can feel really overwhelming. And usually what it leads to then is when you promote your offer, you don't really know who's interested. So you launch, whenever you launch an offer, feels like you're starting all over again. You don't know who's interested, if there's a lot of people that are actually interested in the offer, or if you're just kind of sending it out into the abyss and not knowing who might be interested or not. So that can feel really, really hard because you're kind of starting all over again every single time. You don't know what's going to happen, instead of having maybe a list of people knowing who could be interested and having people to reach out to straight away when you launch your offer. And of course, also to keep in mind when we share things on social media, things can happen. Social media shut down before on days, and then we can't promote our offer if you want to. So having your own email list and your own way of connecting with people is really important. And it also takes that pressure off selling on social media, because actually we bring people to our freebie and then we can nurture them in our email system through our newsletter. And then from there we can share an offer that feels aligned with people that are already interested. So it makes that a little bit easier. So yeah, with that in mind, a freebie isn't about, again, selling just another thing again, or being salesy, or, you get all these kind of very fancy with lots of upsells, and then one thing leads to another, and eventually that might be something you can set up in an aligned way. But really at the beginning, I would just think about a freebie as a gentle opening doorway connection to get to know you, to get into your world, to experience your work, to get to know you and how you work. And I'm sure you've signed up to other people's freebies, and it kind of invites you into their world a little bit without much commitments to start with. Because, when people want to spend their money on your offer, it's quite a lot if they don't know you yet to go straight to one of your paid offerings. But actually this is a way alongside your social media and then your email list to really get to know you. So you can gently invite people in and then nurture them through your email list. So it's really that first step of building sustainable and long-term relationships with your community. And then having them all, in one space, knowing what people are interested in, which makes it much easier for you. Which again brings us to that kind of nervous system friendly perspective, because it creates a little bit of ease and predictability. Because a lot of the times, launches are still down to kind of that percentage of how many people do you have in your email list, in your community. There is always a little bit of predictability of how many people are potentially going to sign up. So if you have a really small email list, that might make it harder. It depends, because sometimes when we start out, that smaller email list can be much more connected. Much more of the people that are on your email list at the beginning, the smaller it is. So at the beginning, it might be slightly different. But we can't sell to the same people over and over again. So that's why long term we want to look at bringing new people in through our freebie, growing our email list. So each time you launch your offering, if it's something that you repeat, you're not always selling to the same people. There's new people that are interested in you, that are interested in your work. So it makes it much easier. So it also has that very easy follow-up system. again, what I said earlier is usually we send something out and then we don't know if they've watched it, if they listened to the video, if they read the PDF. We don't really have a way of following up if we didn't take their email address. So with the set up automated freebie automation, you can send out the freebie automatically, and they can then get a couple of follow-up emails to see how they get on with things. So you've kind of done your part of nurturing that freebie and nurturing that person to really get the most out of it and to get to know you a little bit better. And then, as I said, it makes later on the selling much easier because you already attracted people that are interested in what you do. So when it then comes to selling your paid offer, you're not starting from scratch every single time, but actually kind of continuing to nurture those people that showed interest in that first step. And then you show them, okay, this is the next step. If that helped you, then, we can take the next step with this offer, which might be then a paid offer. And that's going to be much easier and probably going to feel much more aligned because they're already going to trust you a little bit more. They're going to get to know you already. Then it might resonate with you a little bit more than if it's just a cold invitation from social media. A stranger comes across it. The chances of somebody signing up who's never heard of you before is obviously it's just much more difficult a lot of the times. So it's nice having that initial gentle invitation doorway to kind of get to know you and make that a little bit easier. So really a freebie then can look like a very gentle way of introducing yourself and giving a very small resource, but making it really about the client and what would be helpful for them. So having something that could generally really help them for that first small step in how you help people. So if you already have an offer, it's always great to kind of connect it to that. That makes it most effective freebie usually. So having something that leads to that specific offer, that tiny little first step that I have to take, to that first process step that is kind of part of your bigger offering. But it's just this tiny little nugget that can help them initially. And it doesn't have to be anything big or complicated. I think if you haven't done a freebie before, then keep it really simple because we want to overcomplicate. We see maybe other people with really, fancy freebies and upsell to small offerings and then bigger offerings, and that can happen down the line. But if you're starting out, keep it simple, be curious and see what might work. Notice what maybe your clients keep asking you for, what would be helpful, you as an expert knowing what could help them, or ask your clients. Ask what they might need, what that could be beneficial. As I said, ideally it would lead to your offering, but if you don't have a clear offering at the moment, maybe it's just something a little bit more general, but keep it specific to a problem that you could solve. So it might be a short checklist, a short video, a guided audio, and even if you fancy, it could be a live masterclass if that's something you enjoy doing. But initially you might prefer doing something passive like a checklist or an audio recording of something. That can be really helpful. And video is always nice, I personally think, because it helps people get to know you and get a little bit of a feel for how you talk and how it might be working with you. But keep it short. Attention span of most people is very small these days, so it helps you and them to keep it short, very simple, and then just be curious about it. It doesn't need to be perfect straight away. You can test what works, start really small, try it out and see what resonates, because you might not know what people like, if people sign up for it or not. So you can test it. And learning how to sell it and promote it is a whole other step. But that can evolve over time. Create it, set it up, and then share it, and then see what works. But I know that especially the setup part can be really difficult, but once that's tackled, really the great thing about having an automated freebie, so not just having a freebie, but actually having it automated in your email system, is that people sign up. There's a very simple way of people to sign up. They receive your freebie automatically, and then hear from you again later. People are automatically on your email list. They sign up, get added to your email list. They receive their freebie automatically with an email, and ideally you would have probably a couple of nurture emails afterwards. But even just one email is great. They're added to your email list, so the next newsletter you send out, they will receive as well. And that's something that I can then grow whilst you're not putting any work in it. You set it up once. Yes, you want to review it. You will need to fill in some work in like sharing it. But once that's set up and you know it's working, you know people are interested in, you know where to share it, it can then grow automatically. You can add it to your website. It's a really easy way of then having something that leads people to your email list, where you then can continue to nurture them. And as I said, then makes it easier when it comes to promoting your offer. And yeah, as I said, if you already have another offer, it's great for your freebie to lead towards it. If you don't yet, just have a think about what might be, you know, a common problem that your audience often asks you about, your community, that you could maybe solve. And ultimately, as I said, doing all of this, it will help you save time and energy, because you will save that time of having to chase up people manually or following up and not knowing who's really interested. So that can take up a lot of energy otherwise. It will help you to grow much more sustainably through your email list, so you don't have to worry about social media quite as much. And social media could be more the place to kind of lead you towards your website and your email list, so you don't have to put too much pressure on every single social media post, but actually you have a list of people that are interested. It'll help you to bring that a little bit more steadiness and calm into your business. And you know that you can stay connected to people and can still attract new people and grow your email list, even if you're taking time off, because that can just sit there, that can sit on your website, and people can just sign up whenever they want. You can add it to your social media bios, the like link tree, and people can sign up whenever they're ready for it. So it's really great way of taking a little bit of your actively doing something into a slightly more passive way of setting it up automatically. And as I said, obviously it builds that foundation of selling and nurturing people that are interested in what you're doing in a much more aligned way, and the way that feels a little bit more authentic than being this kind of salesy and trying to convince people of something, because you don't have to convince them. They already needed that support. They already benefited from what you're doing. So it's then just sharing what's the next step. And I really know that the tech side of this can feel incredibly overwhelming. And I see it so many times that that's what is keeping people stuck. And we don't want that. So you might even have a freebie already, but again, as I said, you're doing all this manually things of sharing it. Or maybe you don't have one yet, need to think about that first. But then it comes to the tech setup. So that we have an automated process, as I said, that automatically brings people into your mailing list. And I know how overwhelming it is, and I work with many people of like setting it up together, setting it up for them. But I think sometimes it's just great knowing how to do it yourself and feeling really confident in using your own systems. And that's exactly why I created my freebie setup course. This course is specifically for MailerLite because I think it works really well. I know a lot of people are using it. And especially if you're starting out, it's free. You can get quite a lot out of the free version. So if you're setting up your first freebie, it's not that much pressure. So I've set up this course to really help you, especially with the how to set it up. This really step-by-step, very gentle, nervous system friendly way of setting up your tech behind the scenes, so that you can actually get that off your list. Because I know so many times that's the bit that kind of keeps us from moving it forward. You might have the ideas, you might already have created a few resources, but you're sending it manually, as I said. But there's just that missing link of now automating it, making it just that little bit easier for you in the long run. to make it really nervous system friendly for yourself. So if you're interested, that's on offer at the moment. Time as I'm sharing this is November, so we're just running a pre-launch on it. So I will add the link below if you're interested in that. So that course, just to add, is all self-paced, so you can go through everything in your own time and very gently explore how to set everything up. So if you're in that stage of you're not quite sure yet what your freebie should be, maybe you could ask yourself kind of what's that one small meaningful resource I could share that would really help the people that you're working with. What could really help them right now? What would be one tiny step that would be really helpful for them? And that can be something that's really easy for you to create, easy to share, that feels really aligned. And then just test it. And that could become, the foundation for creating something different long run. But, you might start with something and that could develop over time. And yeah, if you already know what you want. If you don't, there's also a little module in the self-paced course to help you kind of find that clarity around what you want to share. Maybe you already know what you want to share, but you just need support with assistance. But without the overwhelm, the freebie course might be just right for you. Or if you'd rather have somebody else do it for you, I'd be happy to help you with that as well. So just get in touch. So it's more than for you support if you don't want to have to deal with the tech. But if you want to explore the tech and want to learn how to use and set up freebies yourself with a very repeatable process, so it's not just a one-time process, but something you can do over and over again, then I invite you to join the freebie setup course. As I said, I'll share the link below. So I hope you found today's session helpful. I know the system side can sometimes feel a little bit more dry, but having a freebie can generally be so helpful in growing a business sustainably. Not just having a freebie, but having it automated. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. As always, I would love to know your insights from today's session. So feel free to message me with anything, message me any questions. And thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you again soon. Take care.